Welcome to episode 95 of Broad Street Hustle. We missed the show last week might have been the first time ever. Is that the only time we
Second, I
missed?
think.
Maybe second.
I think it was
Second.
second. Yeah.
But there was not much going on in the world of sports, so it was a good time to miss. And there's still not that much going on in the world of sports, but we'll figure something out. We got the normal people today. Jason Santa.
Hey, Tom.
Hello. We got Jimmy the Chalk.
I'd like to say the extra week off has helped me get an intelligent thought or two ready, but I'd be setting the bar pretty high if I went that way. So we'll see how it goes.
And for people on YouTube, I got my Harper wearing like Castellanos. And this is my last jersey of a current player. So we're going to have to break out the old guys. Okay, so Sixers. We're going to talk Sixers, Phillies, and the Fountain of Youth. But we're going to start with the Sixers. So Embiid may be back in March, they're saying, I heard. But without Embiid, they're terrible. So, Jason, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I heard was they're talking about the last week of March, so it's like another month of him being out. I don't see how they're going to survive. They're definitely not going to survive not getting into that play-in series or play-in tournament, whatever they call it. I think there's no doubt they're going to be in that tournament, which is
they're
a one
only
and done
one
thing.
loss. They have one less loss than Indiana and Orlando. So one of them can
I mean, they could lose to basically any team they play at this point. Like they're a mess. I mean, I'll start with Tobias Harris. I can't believe that he lasted his entire contract here. Like that contract was so bad that you couldn't get rid of him. You just couldn't get rid of him. Like that contract set the franchise back years. So whoever's idea it was to sign him to that contract should be fired and then hired and refired again.
And he's gotten worse.
Disaster.
Obviously,
He's worse.
without Embiid, but
There's not one thing about his game that I like. Not one. I saw a stat where Lowry took. Did you see this? Lowry took the charge a couple games ago. He now has more charges taken than Tobias Harris in his whole Sixers career.
yeah, he's soft. I mean, he's
Is
soft.
that
around-
unbelievable?
Can't finish, right?
Have you ever seen him dive on a ball and come up with a ball? Dive on the floor and come up with a ball? No. There's not one thing about his game that I like. The other thing I'll jump into is Buddy Hield. I think you could see the warts on him as a player, right? He's a great shooter. There's no doubt. But he's a terrible passer. Like he throws so many passes that get intercepted that I can't even imagine. So he turns the ball over in that regard. Now, you have to wait and see how he's going to play with Embiid because I think he will be. I think he'll be what Seth Curry was and what Redick was with Embiid, but probably better because he's a better scorer than those guys. Like he could actually take to the hoop and score, but he can't do much else but shoot. You know, he could shoot. He's a great shooter.
Yeah, I think it was the ABC broadcast referenced that too, because he was bad against Milwaukee, right? He missed. I don't think he even hit a three. And it was like when his shot is off, he needs to do the other things, and
he can't.
He can't, right?
The game against who was the last game they played? Boston. He had the first two baskets of the game for the Sixers, and that was it. He didn't score again the rest of the game.
He disappears.
So you can see his warts. Got to see how he's going to play with Embiid, but you know his contract's up at the end of the year. You can't be giving that guy more than like $15 million a year. If he wants 20, 25 million, I think you got to let him go. But we'll see. Maybe he's better with Embiid.
Now their team now, obviously stinks, but they also was it the Milwaukee game? Tyrese Maxey needs to take more shots still, without Embiid.
Yeah.
Like,
I just think that he's
Melton
getting
was
swarmed.
taking a bunch of shots. Oubre was taking a bunch of shots.
Yeah, I think they're taking it away from him because they know that he's the only guy that could score. So
he's
he's got to work
getting,
harder, and it's tough. It's tough for him to get get as many shots as you want him to get because they know it. The other teams know it. Like, who else is scoring besides Maxey?
Yeah, that's it.
Harris isn't.
Chalky, your thoughts?
The if you look at the team as it's constructed right now, minus Embiid, let's say they start the year with this and Embiid tore his ACL, and he's out for the year. If everybody plays their best, they're competing for the 6th, maybe 5th seed in the conference. So you don't have a great roster right now. And, it was constructed knowing that Embiid was hurt, or was going to play and come back. So I knew it was going to be a little bit of a struggle, and you're just, it's ugly because you're not getting everybody else stepping up, and Harris is probably playing the worst ball of his tenure here at this point. Statistically, I mean, especially from 3, this is his worst season since I think 2015, 2016. So before he even got here, if you got his typical production over the last couple of years, which might not be outstanding, they probably won at least 1 or 2 other games of these close games that they lost. He was shooting 38, 39% from 3. Now he's shooting like 33, which is like bottom, which is like mediocre, not awful, but you're still kind of below average. So if he's not hitting shots, it really falls on Maxey. And Maxey, had a huge game against Cleveland was at their last win. He had a big night that night, hit a couple shots at the end. Now Cleveland was down Mitchell, I think, so he's maybe their best player, one of their better ones. So they weren't at full, but they're still the 2nd seed in the conference, and they're holding there for now. Some of the loss they had, Knicks, Bucks, Celtics, like they're not surprising that they're losing these games without Embiid. And they actually hung with Boston for a while, but you're not expected to win these games. And then you just, Melton's in and out of the lineup. He hasn't played that much. Batum is in and out, and then some games he's putting up PJ Tucker numbers where he's not even taking a shot.
Batum is out, and in.
Yeah, so it's like
he plays 1 every 4 games.
You have a rotating cast of characters, and Buddy, in order to maximize Buddy Hield and maximize his potential and minimize his deficiencies, you have to have Embiid in there because right now he's your 2nd best offensive option. Like, if Embiid's in the lineup, you're running through Maxey, Embiid, and then he's swinging out there. Without Embiid and with Harris playing the way he is, Ricky Council, you're going to count on Ricky Council for 15 points a game coming off the bench. They just don't have any consistent options otherwise. And
Paul Reed's a mess too.
Paul Reed can't play defense, so
he couldn't stop me, Paul Reed.
No, they're all. It's. I mean, I'm not really watching most of these games because it's like, to me, it's like off their underdogs where they got some scrappy kids, but like they're a complete mess. And Maxey's really the only player worth watching consistently night after night. And it's not worth my time to turn the channel on at this point. I'll read the recaps and watch some of the highlights, but it's rough. And they're not going to fall out of the play-in. But if Embiid's back in a month, you have a few games before the playoffs. But again, I wouldn't rush him back if he's not going to be 100%. And I don't like the fact that he's also focusing on playing in the Olympics this year. Like, I don't need you playing for Team USA. I'm sorry. Like, you need an off season to rest. Like, he's not the most sturdy player. So now he's going to go play in the Olympics. I mean, it's going to be a mess if he doesn't, kind of keep things under wraps until the playoffs, I think, and then tries to play through an off season where he's coming off a major surgery. So,
yeah, it's a shame because they had a little bit of a cushion up to that 7, the play-in, and that completely got wiped out quick.
They're good. If Embiid's healthy, they're a good team.
And they haven't figured out like putting Lowry in with that 2nd unit and who you playing with the 2nd unit. There, you could tell that's been kind of like feeling it out still. So
yeah, and I mean I like the Lowry signing, but I mean to me he's been more of a contributor. I mean he's not playing every night yet still, but he's been more of a contributor coming off in that spot, and he's almost. I mean, if you're just talking about contribution, he's played himself into a starting role in the lineup. I mean, you can't really, if you take him and put him in now, then you got nothing coming off the bench. But he's played a little better than I would have thought he would, even in a limited role.
Yeah, I mean, he could still distribute and run the offense when they don't want Maxey taken out. But
no, I think he could give you a strong 15 minutes a game.
Right, and that's probably all he is. So you wouldn't start him.
No,
you have to take him off the bench.
You limit his minutes, and but I mean, look, Embiid was, there was 2 months left in the season, but Embiid was having a historic season. Like, he was putting up numbers that only, I forget what the stat was today. I should have wrote it down. He was averaging 35 points a game, and whatever stat it was coming in at, it was like, it's only been done once in an NBA season before, and it was Wilt Chamberlain in 62-63. So it's only been done once, and it was done once in the whole 60 years ago.
I think he averaged 50 points a game that year, I believe.
He might have. That might have been. It was it was round one to score and things. But I mean, like
averaging more points than minutes.
Points per minutes. That's exactly it. He was averaging more points per minutes played per game, and it's been done once in NBA history. So, not to say he would have kept up the whole year, but Jesus, he was halfway through the season averaging 35 points. Like, that's ridiculous. And
and even you see, like Jason said, Maxi's not doing what he was with Embiid on the court. Even Harris wasn't playing awful with Embiid. Now he's just awful. So, I don't know. Does Embiid come back and give you enough time? This might be another lost season and another year on Embiid. So we shall see. I think me and Jason both I had the Sixers going into the championship or winning. Jason had them coming out of the second round as our 2024 or whatever prediction. So, not looking too good.
Not looking good.
All right, let's move to the Phillies, something that could be looking pretty good. They open up March 28th at home against Atlanta. Feels like they haven't been home have they opened at home for a while? I know last year they didn't.
They usually open on the road. It's been a while.
Yeah, right. So, and I think the last time they played Atlanta, that opening day was where they had the lead in the late innings and they blew it. I think Nola was on the mound.
Yeah, and they came back to win. I think their last home opener was first game was 2 years ago. They opened with the Athletics. I think that was Schwarber led off in the first game with a home run. That was their first game one at home. Yeah.
So who's going to start opening day? Do they give it to Nola just because that's what they do?
No, it'll be Wheeler.
You think it'll be Wheeler?
I would think it's Wheeler.
A 6 year in a row streak or something?
No, Wheeler was last year.
No, I think it was for opening day. It was Nola.
I'm almost positive it was Wheeler.
Because wasn't Wheeler?
I think Wheeler was the second game.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it was. Now I'm going to have to look it up. But
I think Nola was like 6 in a row or something like that.
Yeah, I think Wheeler had the last one or two, but Nola had a streak before that. I'm almost positive Wheeler started the last two.
I think Nola still has the opening day streak, I think. Or is it the home open streak?
He's got something. Let's see. Okay, Texas last year, the starter was Aaron Nola. Went 3 2/3 with 5 earned runs.
Yeah, they got rocked.
Really?
I'm telling you, I think he started like 6 in a row.
I'm almost positive he started that Athletics game we were talking about. The shortened year, I don't remember, but that was Wheeler's first year, so that probably would have been Nola. So that sounds right, I guess.
I think that, so they might give it to Nola as the token. Just as the token.
Got his contract,
Yeah, maybe.
That Atlanta series is big to open up. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's 162 games, but you want to fight for the division. You want to get out hot, and the Phillies have not the last few years. So.
No.
Getting out to a hot start is pretty big. Jason, just start talking about the Phillies, and I'll throw some questions.
Well, you talk about starting pitchers. I'm convinced, and I'm kind of glad it didn't happen before this podcast because I want to look right. But I'm convinced that if they offered all that money to Yamamoto, they know they need another pitcher.
Yeah, right.
And I'm convinced that they're in on Montgomery. And the reason I say that is, and maybe Snell also, but I think more Montgomery. What I said about Yamamoto. But I also was listening to a show the other day, and it was Jim Duquette. He's a former GM. It's the MLB Sirius show. And he said, he was like, Dombrowski has a great relationship with Boris. And he said, Dombrowski is a silent assassin. He was like, nobody knows that he's in on something. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he's in on something. So I really think that that they're going to offer Montgomery some kind of deal similar to what Bellinger got.
So why have they waited? Is it Montgomery don't want to go?
Because I think they So here's the thing, right? Wheeler's last year on this contract is this year, right? Um, and then they're going to have to re-sign him, and he's going to get a lot of money. So what I think they're going to do is I think they're going to offer Montgomery a huge deal for this year with an option. Um, maybe like something like Bellinger got, like we'll give you 25 million this year with an option for next year. Whichever way the option goes, a player option for this amount of money or whatever. Because they could afford him this year, but they might not be able to afford him at that contract next year. And then you also have, don't forget, you're going to have Painter next year. He's going to be ready to start, right? He might be in your rotation.
Yeah, Abel.
So
That was one of my questions. Is he going to
maybe.
see time this year, or
I more think that he's going to be used as a trade chip, but possibly. I mean, he might be, a guy that you're looking to for the future. So, I don't think they want to give Montgomery a big deal. And I think Montgomery is the one who's looking for a big deal. And if he doesn't get it, then that's where Dombrowski's going to jump
so?
in and say, hey.
What's the age on Montgomery? Like, just go through some of the.
He's probably late 20s, Jim. You probably know that.
I was going to say 28, 29, maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
Don't know that for sure. I'll check that while we talk. But
so I think it's the Phillies don't want to offer him 4 years, and he's probably looking for 4 years, and the Phillies probably want to offer him 2 years. Big this year with an option for next year. So
they're just going to lay him wait till he doesn't get the big contract and then jump in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was so. Another one of my questions was, who's still out there? Who could they acquire? Sounds like their position players. I think Dombrowski said there was one position that was like up for grabs, and other than that, it's pretty much locked in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk to Chalky next, or you want me to keep going, but I have opinions on Merrifield.
All right, now Chalky, just like overall with the Phils, and then we'll go back to some questions.
Yeah, so quickly, both Snell and Montgomery are 31, which is older than I thought, at least on Montgomery. Coming into the offseason, I mean, these guys were the two top pitchers that were established in Major League Baseball that were actually going to pitch this year. I mean, you could say Yamamoto was the big fish. He's never pitched in the MLB, though. And then you have Ohtani, who's not pitching this year because of the Tommy John. So it's kind of, I mean, some players are signing later and later, but I can't remember like top tier pitchers waiting this long for the most part. Seems like obviously Harper signed late, and there's a couple other guys that came in later. So to see these guys still out there is still a little surprising, I guess. I mean, I agree with Jason when I thought they might I didn't know they liked Stroman, but the kind of deal Stroman got a couple weeks ago from the Yankees at 2 years, I thought that might be in the ballpark of what they were going for. And I was thinking along the same lines as him with, Bellinger just signed a 3-year deal with a player opt-out after each of the first 2 years. I thought they might be more inclined to give that to, say, Snell than Montgomery, because Snell has been he's won the Cy Young twice, but when he doesn't win the Cy Young, he's very average, and his postseason stats are not really anything special. So Montgomery's coming off of a World Series win. I think that, and he's a lefty, so they might be more inclined to go that way too. So I'm in agreement there, because that's really there wasn't really a big bat that we necessarily expected them to get. So it was like, what are they going to do with the pitching? And they made the record offer for Yamamoto, and they weren't outbid by the Dodgers. And then you saw some of the other guys move, like Burns was the name everybody thought they'd be in on, and he goes to Baltimore, and Baltimore might have the best farm system, so they might have had more talent to give up. But some of these trades have gone down. Dodgers added a Glass now in the trade, and they haven't been in the mix for any of those guys. So I think they have to have their eyes on one of these two left, and I think they're probably in play for both. Whether they can hook either one of them, we'll see. But I think that's really and the bullpen, they didn't really bring anybody in either. So, I mean, pitching at either side is really where you kind of needed something, and they haven't done it yet. So you got to expect them to try to do something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, their starting pitching right now is probably the best it's been for a while, right? Not that it's been good, but this is probably with Ranger healthy as your three. Who else? Walker and Sanchez, who looks okay. So maybe they go in and make a trade mid-season, like we've said in the past as well. Lineup. Let's talk lineup. It's everybody's favorite. Jason, what are you doing in the lineup?
Well, I wanted to talk about Merrifield. I really, really like that signing because I think he's going to get about 400 at bats this year. Like you're going to see him play everywhere. Like he's going to play
He
left
was
field.
didn't he had a season where he was like phenomenal, right?
Yeah,
Where his average.
he led the league in hits a couple years
He's
ago.
been an all-star. He was a
been the
late bloomer. He
all-star.
didn't come up till he was like 27 or 28, right? So he started late, but he had a couple really good
Right.
really good
All-star
seasons before, yeah.
Led the league in steals 3 times. So
So
and
is
he
he
can
in a
play.
platoon position?
Well, he's going to play everywhere. Like he's going to play left. He's going to play center. He's going to play. I think he's going to back up Harper first base. He could play second base. Like he's going to play all over the. He might even be able to play right field. I'm not sure, but I know he plays left and center. So
I'm
I
sure
think
he-
you're going to see him a lot out there. So and he's got speed. Some more stolen bases now and stuff. So that's a big signing. Lineup itself, I
Which
think
could
it's
change. So like if Whitfield's in the lineup, you might see something different. He might not just play where like Marsh was going to be or something like that too.
yeah.
Possible.
I mean, I still think Thompson likes Schwarber leading off, so I think Schwarber's going to lead off, and you're going to have Turner second.
He
Harper
also
third.
wants to keep righty lefty. He's like made it clear that he's big on that. So if
So
you
there
go
you
with
go.
Turner, you're kind of stuck with who do you go 2, who do you go 3?
Well, Turner. Yeah. Okay. So if you're saying, well, then you probably do Turner. I
Schwarber,
guess Schwarber.
right? So why wouldn't
I
you
would
just
do
leave him
Harper.
off?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
but
I
then
don't
you're
know.
stuck for 3. Now you got Bohm.
Yeah, or Castellanos. Yeah,
Right.
or Real Muto. I'm not sure.
JT.
So it's probably going to be Schwarber, Turner, Harper, any of those guys we just mentioned. Real Muto or Castellanos or Bohm.
I think they're going to give Bohm another legitimate chance to
I agree.
protect. Yeah,
They
to protect.
should. He's probably well, I mean, Turner's probably their best pure hitter. But, I mean, Bohm's right there. I mean, the guy, I think Bohm is going to be a 280, 20 home run guy for his career.
And I think last year we all thought he was going to take like a bigger leap than he actually did last year. We said he was primed for it, and he was their best hitter with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
So
Best RBI, I think, wasn't there a best RBI guy? Or maybe not. I don't know. But he was up there in RBI.
he was right under 100. Did anybody hit 100?
Schwarber might have got 100.
So it was probably he was right under 100, I believe.
Castellanos, I think, got 100 too, actually.
So
Castellanos had a good year. If you look at his stats, Castellanos, he hit like 270 with 28 home runs and 100 RBIs, I think, last year. So
he was like leading the league in doubles at one point. He might have
Mhm.
even been up there. It was the problem with Castellanos is he finished how he finished the season.
Yeah, he cooled off. I mean, he made the All-Star team and then cooled off some in the second half. Picked it up a little bit
No, but then
in the
playoffs, he was
postseason.
phenomenal, and then the last.
Well, those last 4 games against Arizona were just bad, or last 5 games really, I think, for him. But
Chalky, how about the lineup? You see it the same with Schwarber? I mean, that's how I
yeah,
see it.
I mean, yeah. So Castellanos led the team with 106 RBIs last year. Schwarber had 104, so both of them broke 100. Bohm was third with 97. Harper, of course, didn't play the full year, still got 72. I mean, I think the first 4 are what we've said. The question is, you come to 5. So if you're going to play lefty righty, then that's Stott. I don't know. I mean, he played well at times last year. I would
Who's
probably
Stott,
try to
you say?
put at
Stott?
time- I would kind of I mean I would probably look at Real Muto and maybe Stott 6, Castellanos 7.
yeah,
I know you don't want
that.
3 you don't want 3 righties in the middle, but I don't know if Stott the 5th spot is really right for him yet.
Well, here's the thing with Stott, though. He's a year older. I think he's going to improve the way Bohm improved.
Mm-hmm.
Like Stott wasn't he top 5 draft pick? Where was he drafted? Top 10, definitely top 10. So I mean, he's a hell of a player, and he's gonna be a year better. And I thought I saw somebody say they think at some point he's gonna win a batting title. I don't know.
Yeah,
who
I've
said that.
heard that. So what do you want out of your five hitter? Like, what is he RBIs? Is he on base? Like typically,
uh,
who's on base? Guys are on base in front of him. Like,
old school used to be your meat of the order was your RBI guys, but
Yeah.
now, listen, it's not the worst thing in the world to have Castellanos hitting seventh. Down
Yeah.
the bottom of your order,
and that's we said
still
it in
have
the playoffs.
Marsh,
That's what that helped them in the playoffs because it was they never got the break in the lineup. Your seven hitter
right,
was a guy who can hit a home run.
right. You still have Marsh, right, who's a decent hitter, um, and then I, you guys might laugh, but I can't remember who it was now, but it's somebody I respect. They predicted that Rojas will lead the Phillies in WAR this year.
Because of his defense. Because of
I guess because of his
Yeah.
defense, but
They had to
You know.
heavily be on his defense, or unless they
I
walk
mean, he
him after
batted
that.
300 during the
300.
season. I
He
mean, he
did.
had a ton of at bats, but
I think
he
his
batted.
the postseason kind of it's the last thing we think of with him too, kind of like Castellanos. I mean, I think for me, the five, if you're hoping, Schwarber is Schwarber, but you're going to hope that Turner, Harper, Bohm are hitting around 300. So five, I want a guy that's going to get him home. So an RBI guy that's going to clear the deck, and then it doesn't be a home run, but then you could have guys at 6 and 7 that can hit for average with a little bit of pop too, if necessary, and then your guys at the back of the lineup. I mean, if Merrifield is able to contribute like he has in the past, like if you get a guy that can get on base and steal a base, now you got Schwarber coming up. If he bats 8-9 and you got Schwarber coming up behind him, if Schwarber's swinging for the fences and it's a long fly ball, he's maybe getting him home, or he's moving him along, or he's got somebody on base in front of him. Now it's a 2-run home run. I mean, your hope is that those 2, 3, 4 guys are going to be somewhere in the 275 to 300 range as far as average, and then your 5 guy is hopefully a guy that will get him home, even if he doesn't have the same kind of batting average.
Yeah, I like Stat at 5 because he's going to see a lot of pitches. He's going to foul a lot of pitches off. So that pitcher is going to get through Stott, and then he's going to, say, I just threw a ton of pitches and start trying to get strikes and quick outs. And the guys that aren't as good are now going to see better pitches is kind of how I see it. So,
Yeah, I think Stott will hit fifth.
and then, Marsh, is he in a platoon situation? Or are they going to give him lefties? I mean, he hit
Are you going
lefties.
to
In the playoffs, he
you-
hit lefties.
Yeah, I like Marsh. I think Marsh is going to play a lot more this year, and I think, he'll be spelled by Merrifield against tough lefties.
I mean, Pache seems to be going to be on the
Pache's
team.
been hitting pretty well in this preseason, so he's going to battle Rojas for center field. You just wish one of them hit left-handed, so they could platoon. But he's going to make the team. So I just think Merrifield's going to get a lot of at bats in left and a lot of at bats in center, and then when Harper. If you want Harper to DH a game, he'll play first base. If you want Harper totally to take a day off, stuff like that, he's your backup first baseman now.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Harper DH and his Schwarber plays, he plays almost every game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
there
don't-
might be a game here and there you want Schwarber to have a day off,
Right.
I mean,
how
if you
about
want to pace the guys out. I mean, like Jason, you'd said how many? I mean, he could play 3-4 games a week easily and not play the same position twice in the same week. Like if you wanted to spread it
what I
out
meant.
like that. Like I mean, hopefully he's not really health isn't a concern, but Harper hasn't played a full season in the last 2 seasons. So if you're not going to push him to play 162, maybe give him a couple extra days off. He can slide in there, or does he play third at all?
I'm not sure.
I don't know if they would, if you want to mess with Bohm at first and let him play third just to try something, but there really isn't a reason to because he can play first, obviously. So, but I mean that versatility is you could play him 3-4 times a week in 4 different positions and give staggered rest if you're trying to gear up for the playoff run.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it seems like their bench is going to be better than it was last year because they didn't get a ton of production from the bench during the season. So that should help. The closer, what are they doing there?
I think it's the kid.
Is the closer not on the team, or is it somebody on the roster?
I think it's Kirkering. I think they're going to try Kirkering.
So, I mean, I know Thompson basically said they're going to use by committee, but I think they want it to be Kirkering, but maybe he just doesn't want to say that right now. I mean,
but if it's like a lefty lineup in the ninth, and they still have Alvarado, or
yeah, there's not going to be a dedicated guy where he's like, okay, this is the closer. They got his music and the lights and all that shit. I can't swear on this, right? But whatever. Like, coming in, they're not going to have that kind of setup necessarily. But I think they're going to start with the kid, and then Alvarado and even Dominguez, if he's healthy, will probably get some looks depending on the situation.
I think they have 5 guys that could close. I think Hoffman could close.
Yeah,
I think Hoffman, and I think Strom could close, and really Soto could close. He looked terrible last year, but he was a closer for the Tigers. So I mean, you basically have 6 guys that could close. You basically, for me, you have 5 guys I would feel comfortable doing. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable at Soto at all after last year, and I don't know if I feel comfortable with Kirkering yet, but eventually. But,
and Dominguez, at times you did, but at times he was also
awful. You got to see what you're going to get out of him. I mean, he's probably got the best stuff out of anybody. So maybe it's him. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
I mean, I see it as a committee in the beginning, unless somebody like wins it, kind of goes into that role and wins the role. But definitely by committee to start. So I only got a couple more here. How about can they win the division? Legitimately, can they win the division? I mean, they lost by how many games last year?
I think they could.
Right? A bunch.
Yeah, I think they could.
They
got
can.
a hell of a team.
So did Atlanta take any step backwards? Or are they going to be like
I mean, they made their rotation better. I still don't like their bullpen, like the back of their bullpen. They don't really. I mean, Iglesias is still their closer. He's not special. But, I mean, their lineup's still sick. And they added Chris Sale as their number 3 starter. I mean, if he's anything like he was in the past, I don't know if, he's past his prime at this point.
He doesn't stay healthy is the problem with him.
But they,
but like Olsen,
they have a factory of arms. They have like 3-4 guys they call up every year that can come in and pitch
Exactly.
But like guys like Olsen, does he have the same year that he had last year?
I don't think he's going to hit 54 home runs again, but he's still a hell of a player.
If he hits 37, it's still going to be a huge year, like hugely productive in that lineup. That's almost 20 less, but still.
So that means the Phillies got to play better, right, to win the division.
Yeah.
Because we don't think – so their starts have been terrible, so they have to get off to a better start than they did the last couple of years. So I have their
They also didn't have Harper last year, remember?
Yes, that was when I was going to make that point. That was huge.
But
the record with Harper coming back,
Schwarber doesn't hit in April, so maybe they should –
or May.
Schwarber doesn't hit till June. Really.
Lead off with Turner for the first
I mean, last year you had no Harper till Mother's Day or end of May. Turner was not playing well at the beginning of the season and up to like the All-Star break, and Schwarber started slow. So right off the bat, and your pitching wasn't that good.
Calciano's was pretty much their whole team in the
I mean,
if you
like their pitch, and so I mean, I guess Wheeler was pretty consistent maybe for but
and Ranger was out, right?
Ranger was out. So, they had guys out and they had guys not playing well. So, that's that ball club in the second half, even through the playoffs, I would put them up against anybody, even though obviously they didn't win the World Series. If they can play that kind of ball throughout a whole season, I mean, Atlanta's the deserving favorite. And if you look at, the betting odds now, Dodgers are the heavy NL favorite, but they're plus 180. Atlanta's plus 350, I think. The only other team
for the division.
I haven't looked at the division. So the Phillies are 700-ish. They're the only team in single digits, and the next one is 1,600. So those 3 teams, there's a gap in the betting, but they're grouped together very much separate from the rest of the National League right now as far as the lines are going. So the Phillies are getting some respect in that, and they're saying, Atlanta is still likely to win the division. Atlanta probably is probably less than even money right now if I had to. I'll pull the lines up while we talk, but the Phillies are getting respect to be, A, get back to the playoffs, and B, be able to make a run in there even if they don't get to the division again.
I mean, they should have been in the World Series last year. They would have
Yeah.
been 2 years in a row. They might have won it. So yeah, of course. So their first 15, I guess 15, unless they have a 4-game series. Atlanta, Cincy, at Washington, at St. Louis, Pittsburgh. I mean, they should get off to a good start.
The problem is, we mentioned Turner. If you look at his stats, he hits 3-something in August and September, but
He's a slow
he's
starter.
another slow starter. So, you have Schwarber and Turner that are going to start slow for the most part. So, it might be tough for them to get out to a start. The Braves series is tough. I think the Reds are going to be better this year. I think the Cardinals are going to be better this year. I think the Pirates might be a little better this year. So,
and the Pirates usually start off actually well and drop off as the season goes on.
Right. I don't think that's an easy start.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't want to be in the same situation you were last year, where you had to win all those games as the season went on. That's all I got. You guys got any questions or anything we didn't cover that you want to talk about the Phillies?
No, I would just throw out that we're going to do our baseball preview next week, right? So
next week, yep. So
That's
we'll have our draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do the draft, and then we do props, each division, who we have as early World Series winners. So it's usually a pretty good show, and then we have some golf as well coming up, and we got horses, which we're going to move to right now.
Just real quick before we go to that, the Braves are minus 240 to win the division.
What is that in relations to other divisions? Like how
they are the second heaviest favorite behind the Dodgers. Dodgers are minus 450.
Yeah.
Right, obviously. So
but the Phillies
is a lot. Then 240 is a lot.
Yeah, Phillies are plus 310 right now.
So they have the Phillies as the third for the World Series, but not winning the division, which means they're obviously playing in all the wild card stuff. All right, let's move to the Fountain of Youth. We're covering Gulfstream Park. It is a 6:10 start. It is a mile and a 16th. This is the lead up to the Florida Derby. Right? Yeah, the Holy Bull was first. Who won that? Do you remember?
Hades.
Chalky.
Hades won, yes.
All right. Well, he is not in this race.
He is not. The
Okay.
first three finishers from that race are not running in this one.
Are they going right to the Florida Derby, or are they going somewhere else?
I wish I had that answer for you, but I don't.
But we do have the Breeders' Cup winner, right? In Locked, who was the favorite in the
He didn't win.
Favorite, but did not win.
Yeah. His Pletcher's other horse won. Who was the favorite in
Fierceness.
He was the favorite in the Holy Bull.
The Holy Bull, yep.
And lost.
All right, Chalky, you want to kick us off with some thoughts?
It's.
I mean, we're not going to go through every horse, right?
No, so I mean the now there's two horses that are cross-centered in a race tomorrow, and I couldn't find out whether either of them are.
Speakeasy is running in the Fountain of Youth.
He is running in the Fountain of Youth. Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the other horse?
The other one cross-centered. I think he was one of the pigs later on, but 6 Merit was entered the same race tomorrow. Safi Joseph just got Safi Joseph with Zayas, so but he wasn't on there anyway. So I mean, Speakeasy, highest buyer coming in. The two highest buyers are two horses coming out of the same maiden special weight with only one race under their belts. That's Speakeasy the 1 and Victory Avenue the 3. Both look to be close to the pace. The morning light favorite is Dornock, who
he's like pretty up there in the futures as well, isn't he?
He is. He's won.
He's full to Mage. Is it full or half the Mage? I forget.
Yeah, he's
full to Mage?
I believe he's a full. Yes.
Yeah.
I watched him run at Saratoga last year. There was that crazy maiden special weight. He ran second. It was a sloppy track that day. But he beat last time out in the Remsen Sierra Leone, who is now like the darling of the horses that can actually run the Derby, along with I guess Timberlake, who won at Oaklawn last week. And also, drum roll, please, who won his next race out. But those 3 horses there are going to look to want to be on or close to the pace, so things could get a little hot. So I'm going to go with Locked as my top choice. It's his first race back since the Juvenile, which was his only loss. Didn't run a great race, but not terrible. It actually didn't come back slow on the figures, and he doesn't need to be on the lead. So I think if it gets hot up front, he's going to be the most likely horse to come in from behind, sitting close off. And I don't know that I mean, one of the 2 first-timers could easily just be that good and run off with it and hang on. Dornoch, I don't, even though he's been flattered by the horses behind him that have won, he's not running particularly fast numbers, at least in the buyers. I haven't looked at the sheets. So while his competition has been there, I'm not buying him as the favorite at 2-1, certainly. So I'll go with Locked at the 8 as my top choice.
No, if I remember, Dornoch, he had a bad trip in one of the races, but he hung a little bit in one of the races as well. Might have been the first one.
Yeah.
And then the ones he won, he was pretty much on the lead. And so it depends. If you think he's not going to get the lead, he's probably in a little bit of trouble. And then I don't have the numbers. Victory Avenue, I guess the 2. That's Mage's connection? Was Delgado?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that's a 3, I think, Victory Avenue.
Okay, yeah.
He's a 3. Yeah.
So that's the same path as Mage, right? Well, he won the maiden special and
7
then went
furlong. Yeah.
Right. And he ran really well in the Fountain of Youth, if I recall.
He did.
And then so something to think about.
Florida Derby, right?
He ran. I think he ran 4th.
Florida Derby was his better prep race. Yeah.
He came from way off the lead, I think, in the Fountain of Youth and ran 4th.
Yeah.
But similar line. So something to think about. Jason, your thoughts?
So I had 5 horses I wrote down that I had some interest in. Obviously, I'm going to narrow it down. But, we'll start with the one, Speakeasy. He ran that huge race in, his maiden race last out. He wasn't the favorite. Victory Avenue to 3 was. But Speakeasy got a 4. 4 on the thoroughgraphs. Ran huge. I don't know if he could duplicate that. But I mean, to run a 4 your first out is pretty strong. Victory Avenue, like I said, he's the 3 in this race. He was the big favorite in that race. And he didn't run bad. But he just Speakeasy just kind of ran him down at the end of the race. So with him being the big favorite the first day out, and with these connections and all, I'm probably going to lead to him as my top choice. But I'm also going to mention a couple other horses here. Actually, no, I don't think he is going to be my top choice. Actually, I do think Dornoch, the 5, is going to be my top choice. He actually paired 6s in his last 2 races. So, and I believe in those were his improvements, right? So he ran a 6 in his second to last race, and then he ran a 6 again in his last race. I think he's ready to move forward here. I always like Saez. He is going to be speed, but Gulfstream is a speed favoring track. So, whereas Locked might potentially be a better Derby type horse. I don't like closers at Gulfstream Park. So I want somebody that's going to be close to the pace. I think Locked might be a little too far back.
He looks like he'd be better with a little more distance as well. So
and not only that, Locked hasn't run, right? He hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup. So is this Pletcher putting him in a race just to get in the race for and then he's going to follow up at the Florida Derby with him? But I know Locked is supposed to
Speakeasy cross-entered and going into this race. He must not think he's, you know what I mean? Well,
I think Locked was supposed to run in the Sam Davis, and something happened. So
he's stuck to run to get the points.
I think he's trying to get him in.
I mean, he's probably in good shape with the races last year. I think the fact that they're 2 different running styles potentially, then it's like, hey, if this one wins, great, but they're not going to kill each other going up front. Probably plays a little bit into that thought maybe, but Pletcher also doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't run 3 preps like to the Derby, so if he's going to run one of the big runs with a horse, and then you'll get one other one. So he's sitting him out. He had Fierceness and another horse, I think, in the other one. So if he might not have wanted to run 3 in the Holy Bull. So
yeah.
So, Jason,
race,
before you give that other horse, you said Dornoch. So, do you think he's going to be on the lead, or do you think he can win off the lead?
I think he's going to be prominent, right? I think
because the two other ones are coming from sprints.
They're coming from sprints. Yeah. I mean, is Irad, he's usually not as aggressive in dirt. Does Irad maybe try to sit off with Speakeasy?
I would think he's going to sit off.
Right. Then you have basically Saez against Velazquez on speed. I would side with Saez, as far as being a speed rider.
Yeah.
And I just like that he paired his 60s. I think he's ready to jump up. So, I like Dornoch. He's going to be my top choice. I did want to mention one other horse, though. Merritt. I know Chalky kind of called him a pig. I don't know about that. He's the 6. He's another one. He's run 2 races. He's run 8s in both races on the Thorograph. I think he runs a style that if Speakeasy tries to get the lead, and if Victory Avenue is up there, and then if Dornoch is up there, does Merritt get the first run on those horses? Right? Is he going to be sitting like in that 3rd or 4th spot, and then he's kind of come on? I like like I said, I like his Thorograph numbers. It's Saffie Joseph and Gulfstream. At 15-1, I think you could do worse than him in this race. So, but I'm going to make Dornoch the 5 my top choice. But I'm going to mess around with that 6 Merritt.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if Speakeasy can run, even regress a little, and gets the distance, with what you're saying, where I see Dornoch and Victory Avenue fighting it out for the lead, and I see Irad sitting the perfect trip.
And it is Irad. He's the best jockey. So,
right.
Yeah.
Sitting right off. And if Speakeasy can go by horses, which, he didn't have the lead per se for the first quarter of the race. And Pletcher trains him to sit off and go. So I think Speakeasy is going to be the winner. I think he's also going to go off as the favorite with that number, I would think. But Dornoch, I can't argue with. I kind of see it as there's only 3 horses can win, in Dornoch, Victory Ave, and Speakeasy, and I think Victory Avenue is by far the 3rd best of those 2. But ultimately, I would go with Speakeasy as my winner. Irad, Pletcher, again, winning the Fountain of Youth, as they did last year. And, I don't really – that Frankie's Empire, I think, is bred pretty well. Yates had I think he had that real big bomb in the Philly race last year. I can't remember the name. So he can win races. So I would mess around with that horse a little bit in the exotics, but Speakeasy for me. Anything else you guys want to give out a try or exacta or –
Chalky, your pick was locked?
Yeah, I went with locked.
Locked, okay.
Yeah, 3rd horse to me. No better than 3rd.
Who's that?
Locked.
Yeah. If you're asking me, like I said, I'm going to mess around with that Merritt. I think he runs a stalking style that might put him in a good spot here. For the board at least.
Do we know if he's running now? Because
I don't know for sure.
He is the cross-centered horse.
Yeah, that one I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I guess that he was 5-1 in the morning line. I don't know if that would have made him second choice against Speakeasy. So I guess if Joseph, that's obviously a softer spot. So if Joseph might go there, he was going to be the favorite. But
that's an optional claim, I'm assuming, right? Versus a $400,000 purse.
Yeah, it's an optional claim. I don't know what the purse on that would be, but if Joseph thinks he's running for third here, might get just as much win in the race, but then you're clearing a condition too, so that's also part of. I mean, I said he's a pig, but I mean, it's perhaps overstaying a little bit. I mean, I think 4, 6, 7, and even 9 are horses you can mess around with in third place if you're going to use some of the favorites up top. I mean, if they all hang around, it's not going to pay much unless you go real light and hammer it. So if there's a hot pace up front, speed might hold for one, lock might come and pick up second or third, and then one of these other closers might clean up the last piece if you want to mess around a little bit with that.
Yeah, I thought Rio Macho was another horse. He took the blinkers off and then kind of ran his best race. So not win, but won for the exotics as well. All right, anything else? So we'll wrap this baby up. All right, episode 95, Broad Street Hustle. Next week is our baseball show. Have a great night.